4 zeros. The date, let me emphasize this, the date, 21st or 23rd of December 2012, has absolutely no apocalyptic significance whatsoever in the literature of the Maya. None. Now, number two, the long count does not, in fact, end in any case on that day. But according to the Mayan Corpus Dei 1, on this date here, which is 2013s, followed by 4 zeros. So the Mayans do give a date for the end of the present world, but it is not 2012, it is certainly not the 21st of December or 23rd of December 2012. It's an almost unimaginably distant time in the remote future. This is it here, this is the date. Each of these columns is 20 times the previous one, remember. So basically the Mayans are saying that the end of the world will come in the remotely distant future, which is almost unimaginable for us to envisage, because it's 3 quintillion times the age which science accepts the present universe is. It's not 1,000,000 times more, and 1,000 million is a billion, and 1,000 billion is a trillion, and 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion, and 1,000 quadrillion is a quintillion. And it's 3 of those in years. So don't panic. According to the Mayan calendar, we have a long way to run before the end of the world. However, the History Channel loves, I don't know who, I'm hoping someday to meet the being behind the History Channel. But the History Channel loves to retell these tales of dire foreboding. And you know, Sony are bringing out a movie, I think it's coming out appropriately enough on the 13th of November in 2009, called, I think, 2012. But anyway, it's going to be full of a lot of these tales of dire foreboding about 2012, and often vaguely relates to a whole series of doomsday prophecies, which it hints at relating to the day 2012. I want briefly to run through these, just for the sake of demolition. Hopi prophecy is by no means certain. I mean, we could stay here the entire day on this, but it's by no means certain that the Hopi prophecy has anything to say about a specific day, 2012. Oh, very unlikely. The revelation of St. John in the New Testament, the apocalypse of St. John, the last book of the New Testament, was written 1900 years ago. It certainly is very apocalyptic about the destruction of the world, but it's equally evident that the destruction of the world that the apocalypse of John expected was in his own lifetime, very close to the time of Jesus. There's nothing to say about 2012. The quatrains of Nostradamus, I just noted to myself, you know, according to the best experts, they're supposed to be valid to the year 3797 of our calendar, AD. So it's hardly likely that Nostradamus would have predicted the end of the world in 2012. In fact, there's no date given in Nostradamus. It's certainly meant to be read in terms of expectation of an apocalypse, but there's no date given, no time at all, no hint whatsoever given in Nostradamus, despite the threatening remunerations of the History Channel. The Sibylline books, that's certainly the oracles of the Tiburtine Sibyl. They're a medieval concoction, basically, but it's certainly apocalyptic. Destruction of the world, doomsday and all that, but no dates given. Certainly not 2012. And then there's a famous text called the Vaticinia de Somnis Pontificibus, the so-called lost books of Nostradamus. This, of course, was written or put together in about 3 different stages, but it certainly had nothing whatsoever to do with Nostradamus. Let that be stated first, because it began several centuries before Nostradamus ever drew a breath. But it's featuring on the History Channel sometimes as the Lost Book of Nostradamus. It was actually originally composed by some factions in Rome who were trying to get a particular pope elected, and they wanted particularly to combat the candidates from the Orsini family, and they constructed this whole genealogy. There's an allegorical text, and then there's an emblem, and then there's a statement, and so on. But it's a Middle Age document, and it's certainly nothing whatsoever to do with Nostradamus, and it has nothing whatsoever, good, bad, or indifferent, to do with 2012, with all due respects to the History Channel. Now, the prophecies of Mother Shipton, you probably remember hearing about her. She was born in Yorkshire in, I think it was 1488, and she died in 1561. She apparently was a very special child. Her mother abandoned her about the age of 2 because she couldn't cope. And anyway, from then on, she took off. But a man called Richard Head brought out her works in, I think it was 1684, but he later admitted that he had made up most of her biographical detail. But anyway, Mother Shipton, God be good to her, and nothing whatsoever to say about 2012 or this age at all. The prophecies of Merlin are often vaguely hinted at with foreboding. They were forged by Geoffrey of Monmouth about the 14th century, became very popular in Venice around that time. So, supposing we are buying all this stuff which began with Michael Coe 43 years ago, that we're going to have a massive occurrence of some kind, whether it's destruction of this universe, or whether we're all going to be mysteriously ushered into a new dimension of consciousness, quote unquote, of my friend Daniel Pinchbeck. Supposing we're sitting in our houses or on top of some hill somewhere on the evening of the 21st or 23rd of December 2012, what should we expect that day in the light of the 9 prophecies? Nothing. Zero. What? That's what you should expect. And that is what you will get. Now, this doesn't mean that we're facing very, very difficult times. The reason I am so much against this 21st or 3rd of December date is because some of these things may happen sooner than that. And if we're all focused on some catastrophic, mysterious event foreseen by the Mayas, then we're going to be really caught out very, very badly. There's a couple of things we need to take into account here. And I'm going to have to put this on again. Mona, you're going to forgive me, I know. If not today, maybe sometime in the distant future. But I want to read some statistics on this. The NASA Themis spacecraft back in June 2007, just a little over 2 years ago, detected enormous breaches in the magnetic field of the Earth, which were 4 times the width of the Earth itself. And it was absolutely anything previous to that was never even thought to exist in the wildest terms. Now, the solar cycle 24, which is expected maybe in about 2013, or a little earlier even, the Earth's and the Sun's magnetic field will be aligned in about 4 or 5 years' time. And the startling fact that they've discovered recently is that when the Earth and the Sun's magnetic field are aligned, then it allows a lot more of solar particles, which they call the solar wind, some of which are very harmful in terms of ultraviolet rays and X-rays, in addition to other electrons and protons that come in. They expect that perhaps 20 times the normal amount of those harmful rays will come in if the Sun and the Earth's magnetic field are aligned, which they will be in 3 or 4 years' time. But this is going to be a very, very serious problem. It may not touch in 2012 or 13 or 14, but it's certainly something that would be very foolish to ignore. Number 2, the Sun's magnetic field. Now, since